When the 2020 season dawned, Shy Sox Nation knew their team was close. They knew they were loaded with talent. In 2017, Yoan Moncada had been the second-ranked prospect in all of baseball. In 2018, Eloy Jimenez was fourth. In 2019, Luis Robert Jr. was third. The time was now to cash in on all of the hardship they'd had to endure over the years since their last World Series win in 2005 and last playoff appearance in 2008. All of their fans' wildest hopes and dreams started to come true that very year, when they made the playoffs in a COVID-shortened season. Sure, they were bounced quickly, but they were in their ascendancy, right? The future was going to be filled with champagne spraying, trophy hoisting, and Grant Park celebrations. Wait till next year wasn't a lament anymore, but a promise to come back strong and finish the job. Fast forward to 2024, the teams in 2020 who also made the playoffs that season, the Rays and Dodgers, the Yankees and Astros, the Indians and Brewers, are mostly still excellent teams who've been in the playoffs multiple times since. Most will likely return to the playoffs this season. As for the White Sox, well, the White Sox have fallen to a new low. They began the 2024 season by winning just 3 times in their first 18 games. Somehow, they swept the Rays, and aside from the odd win, they've kept on losing ever since, establishing one of the worst starts in Major League history. So, how did this happen? In part, it's because, in many ways, baseball is a game of hope. The NBA and NFL might have extensive mock draft lists, but once the draft is over, few keep track of the lowest round picks or undrafted free agent signings. Most NBA fans don't know the best 20 players in the G League, and there's no minor league for the NFL. Prospect hope comes once per year and then generally fades away once the season starts. Not so in baseball. Baseball is an amateur draft, of course, that just recently started to be televised, but first round picks are no lock to even play one inning for the big league club. What's more, hope extends deep down into the draft. Throw in the international signings, an often overlooked element of building talent, and suddenly, hope is everywhere. Each MLB team has its own top 30 prospects, and the league as a whole has its top 100 prospect list. A fan can spend hours combing through box scores from Pawtucket and Montgomery in search of the next big thing, a player who's coming on strong and might one day show up ready to help the big league squad. But, as White Sox fans learned the hard way, prospect rankings don't play each other. It's not like a version of March Madness where the top seeds advance. The minute a top prospect steps onto an MLB field, every evaluation, every prediction, every prior accolade goes out the window. Either a player produces, or he doesn't. He stays healthy, or he stays in the IL. He stays in the 40-man roster, or he gets DFA'd. It's a cruel system of binaries. And the White Sox have been one of its most consistent whipping boys. What happened to Chicago is instructive on many levels. It shows how quickly the wheels can come off a team if too many wrong moves are coupled with some unlucky breaks, bad hires, and a cancerous culture. And it also displays that the league is so competitive that the line between winning and losing is really razor thin. So, winning teams have to be built by solving complex puzzles, and for the White Sox right now, they can't even seem to find the corner pieces.
Before we get more into that, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Mova Globes. Now, I could spend a long time talking about how their magnetic technology has made it to where there's no cords or anything like that to get this globe to spin. Basically, all you need is light. I think I'd rather show you how cool it is. Watch this. See this outer shell right here? See how it keeps spinning as I move it? I'm sure you've seen videos like this from people around the internet, right? Maybe spinning it or something like that. There you go, watch. I'm absolutely not moving at all. And there you go. It's moving by itself. It's the perfect coffee table item, right? There's not a lot of cords or anything like that to power it. It just sits there and spins. They have one for all 30 MLB teams and pretty much any other sports team you can think of, as well as 40 other celestial body designs from JPL and NASA. And with code MLB20 right now, you can get 20% off of any MLB themed globe. You can also use my code MTC10 for 10% off of any globe that's 6 or 8.5 inches on the website, period. So go to the link in either my description or pinned comment and discover the magic of the world in motion with Mova Globes today. Now, back to our video.
They say that past is prologue, and if so, the White Sox really seem to be a doomed franchise. They also say the past is never past, and if so, the White Sox really do seem to be cursed. Why? Because of the scandal surrounding the 1919 World Series. One of the most iconic black stains on the sports history period. But to understand what happened, we need to confront the owner, Charles Comiskey, one of the greatest innovators in the history of the game on one hand, with some of its tightest pockets on the other. He won a World Series in 1906 with the Hitless Wonders, a team filled with weak hitters who played small ball and beat the 116-win Chicago Cubs. Then he turned around and bought 2 of the game's greatest hitters, shoeless Joe Jackson and Eddie Collins, which ended up leading to another championship in 1917. Smart people assumed that the Sox would win many more rings, but in fact that 1917 team would be the last one to win a World Series for them for 88 years. No other Shy Sox team would win 100 games during the regular season during that span. You see, in 1919, the once pristine Chicago White Sox became the Black Sox, once news spread that 8 players had been paid by gamblers to throw the World Series. Many books and movies have delved into this scandal, and it overall darkened the reputation of the game in general. Comiskey shared a large portion of the blame because he refused to pay his players anywhere close to what they deserved, a practice allowed by the predatory contract structures that ruled the game back then. Even though the 8 men out were not found guilty at trial, new commissioner Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis banned them for life in 1921. For the next 3 decades, the Chi Sox played dismally, as though the baseball gods had condemned them for their sins. They wouldn't return to the World Series until 1959, at that point ending a 40-year pennant drought. They wouldn't succeed in securing a championship, however. Then they didn't return to the postseason again until 1983, led by power hitters like Greg Luzinski, Ron Kittle, and Carlton Fisk. But, again, no title. The Chi Sox won back-to-back AL West titles in 1993 and 1994, led by 2-time MVP and future Hall of Famer Frank Thomas. When the dust had settled on a full century of baseball as the White Sox entered the 21st century, not a single ring had been won since that 1917 squad. And perhaps even more bizarre, no prominent White Sox outfielder had been elected to the Hall during that time, a dubious distinction no other team shared with them. But then the baseball gods had a change of heart, starting in 2004 when the Boston Red Sox were forgiven for selling Babe Ruth to the Yankees and won their first World Series since 1918. Apparently they weren't finished dispensing mercy, however, because the next year, in 2005, the Chicago White Sox were granted clemency for the Black Sox scandal by winning their first ring in 88 years. In back-to-back seasons, 2 haunted franchises put the bad times to bed for at least a year. The new leader was Ozzie Guillen, who kept the Chi Sox in contention afterward. He was brash and bold, outspoken and funny. They went on to win another division title in 2008, but lost to the Rays in the ALDS. Then, between 2009 and 2019, the team didn't make the playoffs even once, a stretch of mediocrity that saw more than a few good players pass through, which we'll get to in a moment. One fact that serves as more of a statistical oddity than anything else is that over this period, 2 pitchers tossed perfect games for the Sox, Mark Burley in 2009 and journeyman Philip Humber in 2012. These 2 games represent 8.3% of all perfectos ever thrown. But Guillen left for the Marlins after the 2011 season, to be replaced by former player Robin Ventura. The decent 2012 was followed by 3 seasons of disaster. Between 2013 and 2015, the team won just 43.6% of their games, and finished either last or next to last every season. But let's rewind a bit. In 2010, the team used its first-round pick to land a lanky lefty from Lakeland, Florida, Chris Sale. In 2013, they selected shortstop Tim Anderson in the first round. The next season, they grabbed Carlos Rodon from NC State. At the same time, they were active in the international market, signing Jose Quintana, then bringing in future Cuban stars like Jose Abreu in 2013 and Luis Robert Jr. in 2015. Of note as well is that in 2015, the team signed Fernando Tatis Jr. for $825,000, then promptly traded him to the Padres for starter James Shields, in what has gone down since as one of the worst trades ever. Regardless of that blunder, the pieces certainly seemed to be coming together to build a team that featured speed, power bats, power arms, and elite defense up the middle, the time-honored recipe for a winning franchise. The team was struggling on the field, but the front office was acquiring big, strong, powerful athletes from all over the world, with the hope that this would soon reap big rewards for the Chi Sox. The assembling of young prospect talent didn't stop, because following another sub-500 fourth-place finish in 2016, the front office embarked on an extensive fire sale. First to go was superstar lefty Sale, who in 2016 registered an MLB leading 6 complete games along with an ERA plus of 121, marking at that point nearly half a decade of prolonged dominance. He was just 27, with the promise of peak performance over the next several seasons. The price was steep, and the Red Sox delivered. Yoan Moncada and Michael Kopech. Moncada was the Red Sox top everyday prospect, and Kopech was the team's best pitching prospect. But the team wasn't done. In the same offseason, they dealt reliable outfielder Adam Eaton, coming off his best season, to the Nationals for top prospects Lucas Giolito, Dane Dunning, and emerging power arm Ronaldo Lopez. The next season saw the team trade valuable starter Jose Quintana in return for another veritable treasure trove of talent, starter Dylan Cease and powerful outfielder Eloy Jimenez, both who had superstar upside. It was a dizzying array of moves that quickly filled the coffers of the team's talent pipeline. They already had a monster power hitter at first in Abreu, who had won the Rookie of the Year award in 2014 before settling into an annual 30 homers and 130 OPS plus a season. Robert was in the minors and routinely turning heads with his otherworldly blend of speed and power. Moncada was just 22 and ready for a breakout at the major league level. Jimenez hit 31 homers in his rookie season of 2019. All of these players were the size of NFL linebackers. Each stood over 6 feet tall and weighed in at an excess of 220 pounds. On the hill, Cease had the ability to blow hitters away once he got control of his electric stuff. Giolito became an all-star in 2019 with 2 shutouts, 228 Ks, and a 134 ERA+. Kopech dealt with injury issues, missing 2 full seasons because of injury and COVID, but he had a power arm as well that projected to turn him into an asset capable of 200K seasons. It was even rumored that he had once thrown 105 miles per hour in the minors while with the Red Sox. Between 2017 and 2019, the team lost far more than it won. They didn't sniff anything close to a 500 record, but signs of progress were everywhere. Tim Anderson won a batting title in 2019 with a 335 average. Moncada finished that year with an OPS plus of 140, as he'd hit 315 to go along with 25 dingers. Abreu hit 33 homers that season as well, and led the AL with 123 RBIs. Jimenez, as we'd mentioned, had a great rookie season. Cease and Kopech showed flashes. With Rivera well on his way as well, the team was positioned to take control of a division that was ripe for the plucking. The year 2020 was horrible for most of humanity, but for the White Sox, it was the start of what could have been a dynasty. No other team in the AL Central had gathered together so much raw talent and fast twitch power in years. Free agent catcher Yasmani Grandal was a welcome addition to the talented core. Former Cy Young winner Dallas Keuchel gave the rotation a big boost as well. Abreu even won an MVP, driving in 60 runs in 60 games while clubbing 19 homers along the way. The Sox finished the truncated season 35-25, good enough for a playoff spot, before losing to the A's in the wildcard series. Those results, however, didn't matter as much as what lay ahead. A team with the potential to outslug, outrun, and outpitch nearly anybody who dared to take them on. But they'd have to do it with a new manager, because their current skipper, Rick Renteria, was fired after the season ended. The Sox were certainly contenders going into 2021, and they further strengthened their squad by adding closer Liam Hendriks and starter Lance Lynn. They signed Anderson, Robert, and Jimenez to extensions, moves that most well-regarded organizations make. They were set to rock and roll like few Chi Sox teams had done in recent years. To manage this young, aggressive team, the Sox reached back to the future and picked up Tony La Russa, who'd taken the Sox to the playoffs in the 1980s before stops in Oakland and St. Louis. He was literally already a Hall of Famer, so old was he at the time. What's more, his old school approach surely was said to rub some people the wrong way. For that first year though, it didn't seem to matter that much. Chicago rolled to a 93-69 record, good enough to win the AL Central. They would quickly run headlong into a tank however, namely, the Houston Astros, who'd come close to winning 2 straight years in a row following their trash banging in 2017 and 2018. They were, aside from their sign-stealing scandal, the rebuild model every MLB team is still trying to emulate. Lose big, as they had done in the early 2010s, draft well, trade for prospects, and then raise those youngsters into superstars. Chicago had followed the same plan, but the Astros were simply further along the path. Houston beat them 3-1 in the ALDS, then made it back to the World Series again, before losing to another squad who had followed much the same formula, the Braves. White Sox fans were frustrated, but still positive. Wait till next year. Robert was coming off a strong season where he hit 338 in limited time, good for an OPS plus of 154. What's more, the bullpen got a huge lift from the addition of Joe Kelly. The year before, he'd posted an ERA plus of 148 with the Dodgers. He was a veteran of the playoffs and used to pitching under pressure. And, perhaps most important of all, their core of super prospects remained intact. But the team struggled getting out of the gate, losing 8 in a row in the middle of April. By May 1st, they were 5 games under 500. The team that was knocking on the door of greatness seemed to be taking a step back. All eyes fell on their 77-year-old manager, who seemed to be losing a step. A game in June against the Dodgers baffled many Southsiders. First, with Dylan Cease on the mound, the team coughed up a 4-run lead by giving up 6 unearned. La Russa left Cease out there to throw 45 pitches in the inning before he went out and got him. Then, with Trey Turner hitting and Freddie Freeman on first, Turner fell behind lefty Bennett Sosa 0-2. A wild pitch sent Freddie Freeman to second. Then it was 1-2 with 2 outs. One pitch, and the inning was over. But La Russa, for some inexplicable reason, decided to intentionally walk Turner so Sosa could face Max Muncy, lefty on lefty. Muncy then promptly clubbed a 3-run homer to make it 10-5. If that was the only strange decision La Russa made in 2022, fans wouldn't have been so irate, but La Russa kept doing baffling things, like inserting the light-hitting Leori Garcia into the lineup over Andrew Vaughn or Jake Burger. Garcia had one of the lowest WARs in baseball, while Vaughn and Burger were promising young hitters at the time. Then, in August, to make matters worse, La Russa seemed to fall asleep in the dugout during a game. A month later, he would take a medical leave due to a pacemaker that had been inserted during the offseason. The team played better for a while under interim manager Miguel Cairo, but then sagged again en route to an exactly 500 finish at 81-81, not nearly good enough to make the playoffs. Fans were starting to notice something. When the young talent arrived to the big leagues, they wouldn't get much, if any, better. Players weren't developing the way other organizations would see. Maybe a change in leadership would fix the issue, right? Russa thankfully stepped down following 2022. In 2023, the team was to be managed by Pedro Gaffol, seemingly the opposite of Tony, young with no prior MLB managing experience. The change in leadership didn't help. They somehow fell 20 games behind their prior year's performance, finishing an embarrassing 61-101, mid-rebuilding numbers. It wasn't like they didn't try things. They let Abreu walk as a free agent so Andrew Vaughn could play first base, his natural position, in an effort to shore up the team's sagging defense, which had put them near the bottom in pretty much every defensive category the year before. Former Gold Glover Andrew Benintendi was signed with this in mind as well. Nothing helped. In 3 different months, they won fewer than 10 games. Their starting 9 averaged an OPS plus of just 84, with the once emerging superstar Tim Anderson posting a pathetic mark of 61, not even hitting his first home run until well past the midpoint of the season. Yoan Moncada posted horrible numbers. Jimenez was injured for large segments of the year and underperformed when on the field. Kopech's evolution seemingly stalled. Cease had his worst season since his rookie campaign. The team, cumulatively, had the 3rd lowest OBP in the league. Their pitchers gave up the most home runs and had the 3rd worst ERA. It was a certified dumpster fire. At the trade deadline, they moved Keenan Middleton to the Yankees, Lance Lynn to the Dodgers, Kendall Graveman to the Astros, and Lucas Giolito to the Angels. Middleton, for his part, had a lot to say about what had went wrong with the team. He claimed that the squad under both Russa and Grafal had, quote, no rules, and that there was absolutely no accountability. Players could miss drills or even sleep in the bullpen with 0 repercussions. The culture, in his opinion, just wasn't conducive to winning. I guess it's no wonder what would come to pass the next year. You'd think that was rock bottom, right? 20 games under 500? Not even close. Luis Robert Jr., one of the only bright spots from 2023 with his nearly 40 homers, has had hip flexor issues that have kept him largely out of the lineup. Yoan Moncada, still seeking a comeback, is battling both hip and groin injuries and has played only sparingly as well. Tim Anderson now plays for the Marlins, Cease with the Padres, Giolito now out with Tommy John surgery with the Red Sox. Andrew Vaughn was supposed to one day be in line to crush 35 dingers, but his current WAR levels has him as one of the worst players in the league. The same is true for Andrew Benintendi, as well as newly signed catcher Martin Maldonado. Eloy Jimenez has gutted through nagging injuries and currently has an OPS plus around league average, which seems obscene for someone of his once perceived talent level. So, will the Sox be sellers at the deadline? Well, sadly, the White Sox aren't really in any position to make major moves. Beyond Robert Jr., the Sox can't induce a blockbuster trade because they simply don't have the pieces. To add insult to injury, MLB has recently graded their farm system at 20th overall, and they have just 2 top 100 prospects, shortstop Colson Montgomery at 9 and pitcher Noah Schultz at 50. As it stacks up now, their best trade piece will probably be a 36-year-old Tommy Pham. They need more talent in the minors, but they don't have assets at the major league level to trade for these pieces. So, much like the Angels and Marlins, they are seemingly stuck where they are for years to come. When things go sideways, it's easy to assign blame. Fans are eager to lay this mess where it probably belongs, at the feet of owner Jerry Reinsdorf, who also owns the Chicago Bulls, who took over in 2017. It was Reinsdorf who brought in Tony La Russa, who hadn't managed for 9 seasons. La Russa was an innovator back in the 1980s, but in the 9 years he was away, the game had become even more data-driven. When La Russa intentionally walked Turner in 2022, Twitter blew up with data heads who showed just how stupid the move was from a statistical point of view. La Russa was stuck in a platoon-centric strategy that had worked before in-depth biomechanical breakdowns blew up the sport. But obviously, this wasn't ownership's only gaffe, as, even after La Russa retired, things haven't gotten any better. In fact, they've gotten arguably worse. And unfortunately, this is where we end today's vid, on a sour note, as is often the case with bad ownership. Will the White Sox rebound? It's anyone's guess. The A's have had success in the past under their buffoon of an owner, but 0 championships in the past 30 years. The Marlins have won 2 in that time, but none in 20 years, during which time they haven't managed even a single appearance in the NLCS. These comps don't inspire confidence. When all is said and done, the Chicago White Sox from the late 2010s may go down as the biggest wasters of prospect talent in modern baseball history, with that being their only real claim to a legacy at all. Now, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, consider liking and subscribing and clicking this playlist for other essay content just like this. Have a great day, everyone.